Do you think there's any chance that the U.S. or Western countries will want to join BRICS and be part of this? Like, is Trump a wild enough card where that is possible that he'd be like, yeah, let's be part of BRICS, and
Well, it was
and these
Trump.
sanctions, because he says he's not a fan of sanctions.
Yeah, well, he says all kinds of things. I think it was just recently he said that he would deal with a move away from the dollar by slapping 100% tariffs on any country that stopped using the dollar. So,
Right.
no, I don't
Right.
think he's anywhere close to having the mindset to join BRICS.
Well, that's the
Maybe
exactly
some
the
days
type
he
of
might think that, but other days he won't. That's
right.
Trump.
But that's just proof in itself that that type of response. That's exactly why countries need BRICS. They want BRICS. It's just
Right.
like, no, you have
Yeah,
to use
No, I think
our
he would. Right,
system.
he would probably accelerate the movement from the dollar if he tried to do that.
Right, but that's the thing, is the only thing that we have in our toolbook right now is just the stick, and it's just not working anymore. We were not able to entice people. We just threaten them, and
right.
it backfires.
Yeah,
So
no,
I just
no,
don't see.
that's what we're discovering. I mean, that's right. And I think again, the war in Ukraine, the launch of the SMO, and the sanctions that followed, those were the watershed moment that showed it. We went in with such confidence. We were going to destroy Russia. Watch the world. Watch everybody. All of you out there, the rest of the world, watch us. We're going to destroy Russia. And now, Russia is obviously doing quite well. One of I think the most interesting things about this BRICS summit is the coverage of it. I've seen many different reports in the West, and they all acknowledge that this proves that Russia is not isolated. They just admit it.
Right.
And which is what we've been saying, for a long time, and other people have been saying for a long time. But the West wasn't. I think just like a month ago, Tony Blinken was claiming that Russia was completely isolated. And, that was just sort of like, that was the, that was the talking point in the West. It's just amazing. The media, again, Western media are basically just propaganda organs. So they had that talking point for a long time, just like, we've talked about sharpest attack, and, they're completely isolated. They're pariahs, and right up until BRICS, and then you see all these world leaders flying into Russia and eager to seek out Houston, not what am I saying, Putin, and to get to shake his hand and to be have their picture taken with him and everything, and it was just so obvious. I mean, you couldn't hide the reality any longer. So, they eventually, just like in the case of Joe Biden and his dementia, reality just breaks in. They kind of try to hold the dam as long as they can, but eventually the dam bursts. And I think that's what happens. So you just see a lot of these people, that are reporting it seem visibly upset and angry about it, but they had to admit that, boy, Russia is not isolated.
Yeah. Right. No, I was surprised too. I read some of those headlines as well, and some of those articles. Articles like from CNN even just admitting
Right.
that this is proof that Russia is not isolated. All these world leaders, and not just like small third world country world leaders. We're talking about big players. India, Brazil. I guess Lula was injured, but video called in. But India and China, just all these huge countries. Iran, of course, Pezeshkian's over there. So it's just proof that it doesn't work, and the BRICS is the new hot commodity in town, the new hot club that's open, and we're out there just looking through the window, just bitter and upset, and are wanting, and nobody wants to join our club anymore. And why would they? Our club has been a failure, and it's ruled through fear. So
right. Well, you look. The contrast, between BRICS members and their relationship to BRICS, and let's say the Europeans and their relationship to NATO and to the Western hegemony is really stark. I mean, again, BRICS is all about sovereignty. Okay, you have your policies, we have our policies, you have your civilization, we have our civilization, and we just get along, we trade, and we don't interfere in each other's affairs. Europe could have gone along with that too. But they have submitted themselves entirely to U.S.-led hegemony, and they've really lost their own voice in the world. Nobody takes the Europeans seriously anymore because everybody knows that they're vassals of the U.S., right? They don't have an independent foreign policy. The U.S. even, blows up their pipelines, and they just say, yes, massa.
Thank you.
It's just, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah,
really
no, it's
quite extraordinary. I mean, I think Europe has just made a fatal mistake by going down that road.
Do you think that Europe is going to course correct?
Well,
That's what we're seeing a sign.
Right. Well, of course, I know that I believe Viktor Orban and also the Serbian president have expressed an interest in joining BRICS. But, they've always, well, first of all, Serbia is not part of the EU yet. But of course, Hungary is. So there are some European countries that but they're already considered outliers and dissidents, within Europe. You would have to see a real kind of a revolution, a real revolution, throwing off the yoke of the U.S. within Europe. And, we've talked about the rumblings of that, but I think we're still quite a ways. The European governments are, with the exception, again, of Hungary and Slovakia, Serbia, they're very solidly, under the yoke of the U.S. But it could change. We are seeing some, again, rumblings. But
right.
Sometimes these things can catch you by surprise. I think, what is it? I forget who it was who said that things, might not change for 100 years, and then in a day, you get 100 years worth of change. I know I didn't quote that correctly, but more or less that's the idea. And that's really the way history often works. So we just kind of get the sense like, man, it's never going to change. And then one day it does, it blows up. And we might see that in Europe. I hope so, for the sake of Europe. I hope so. And that it comes sooner. I think it has to come eventually, but I hope that it comes in a matter of a few years rather than decades.
Well, if that happens, then we're going to see a huge change here in the U.S. as well, right? Basically, we're alone at that point.
Right. Yeah. Well, we see that, like occasionally with votes on Israel and Palestine, where it's basically like the U.S. and not even, maybe Britain will abstain. Even Britain said can't quite go along with it. It'll be the U.S., Israel, and Fiji, or something like that, and that's happened.
Right.
Maybe there are a couple other Pacific Island nations or something, but that's it. And it shows our isolation on that particular issue. But it'll eventually be that on everything if Europe actually breaks free.